Coming up on WUFT Midday, out of a job, former head coach Billy Napier is out after a sluggish start to the season. Where the team goes from here.
Plus, help finding a missing man. Police in Gainesville turning to community to help solve the 60-year-old's disappearance.
And hundreds of online services and platforms are booting back up and running after a widespread outage earlier today. WUFT Midday starts now.
Watching WUFT Midday.
The news much of Gator Nation was waiting for finally happened. Billy Napier is out as Florida's head coach. This is WUFT Midday. I'm Chapman.
And I am Oriana Torre. The team's win against Mississippi State Saturday wasn't enough to keep Napier around. The athletic director announced his departure Sunday. WFT Joshua Stevens is live in the newsroom with the latest on the firing and the team's next steps.
After repeated calls for his departure from fans, Gator head coach Billy Napier was fired Sunday with a $19 million buyout, with interim head coach Billy Gonzalez taking over. Let's unpack the wild weekend of Gator football. Napier had a 22-23 record over 3.5 years in Gainesville and was the first Florida head coach since the 1940s with a losing record. Napier's offense sputtered in 2025, with Florida's 22.3 points per game ranking tied for last in the SEC and in the bottom third nationally. Gonzalez is next up at the helm for Florida, and his experience in the swamp is he had multiple stints with the Gators wide receivers coach and won 2 national championships. Napier avoided talking about his future after his 23-21 victory over Mississippi State Saturday. The focus now turns to Florida's search for their next coach. Fans have been clamoring for Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, who has gone 50-19 in Oxford. Other possible options are Washington's Jedd Fisch, who began his coaching career as a Florida grad assistant under Steve Spurrier, South Florida's Alex Golesh, and Missouri's Eli Drinkowitz, who have both surpassed expectations at their schools. Georgia Tech's Brent Key, who has his Yellow Jackets up to number 7 in the AP poll, could also be in play. Stay tuned at 5, where our crew will be at Billy Gonzalez's first press conference as Florida's head coach. Live in the studio, I'm Joshua Stevens, WUFT Sports.
Some of us dealt with fog on the way to work this morning, but what matters now is that skies are clearing up and it's nice and dry outside. UF forecaster Aiden Wacksman is live in the weather studio to let us know how some cool and dry air is headed our way.
That's right, we do have some cool and dry air headed our way, and some of us actually got some of that really cool air earlier this morning. These low temperatures in Lake City, Columbia County, around 54 degrees. That's pretty cool out there. For those of us ahead of that cold front that passed through earlier this morning, still sitting in those mid-60s for our low temperatures, but right now definitely heating up, but won't get too much hotter for the rest of the day. Skies nice and clear out there, 74 degrees right now, 10-mile-an-hour winds from our east. It's just really, really nice out there with these temperatures. That cold front passing has left some really wonderful conditions out there. With that cold front to our south and a high pressure to our north, that's actually going to bring in more of that clear, dry weather and cooler weather for an extended period of time. So that actually should continue into the middle to end parts of this week. So it's just a great week to get out there. I know that's some good news for those of us that were dealing with some of that rain yesterday that was ahead of that cold front. It was definitely a rainy day yesterday. We can actually see where that cold front passed through. We have all this dry air to our north right now. These dew points around the high 40s in parts of Columbia and Suwannee counties, as to where in Marion County, 67-degree dew point. That's actually really humid out there, at least comparatively, ahead of that cold front to the rest of us, and it's only going to get nicer out there for all of us here in north central Florida. I'll let you know just how cool things could get and why you might actually need a jacket if you're headed to work or early in the morning, coming up next.
Israel launched airstrikes on southern Gaza early Sunday in the first major test of its ceasefire with Hamas. Israeli leaders say that Hamas carried out a blatant violation of the ceasefire with attacks on its force in the Rafah crossing area. And as Alice Barr reports, Hamas leaders restated its commitment to the truce and said it had no knowledge of any clashes.
This morning, aid trucks at the Gaza border as Israel says deliveries of life-saving supplies resume today and that its forces are once again enforcing the ceasefire that President Trump said is still in effect.
Yes.
The fragile agreement facing a major test over the weekend when the Israeli military launched a wave of deadly strikes and paused aid transfers after accusing Hamas militants of killing 2 soldiers. President Trump citing internal divisions within Hamas.
We think maybe the leadership isn't involved in that, some rebels within, but either way it's going to be handled properly.
While underscoring that Hamas must disarm as required in the peace deal he brokered.
If we have to, we'll disarm
the U.S.
Well, whether it's me or the U.S. or it's, a proxy, could be Israel, with our backing, we won't have boots on the ground. There's no reason to.
Vice President Vance offering more specifics.
That's going to require, as we know, some of these Gulf Arab states to get forces in there to actually apply some law and order and some security keeping on the ground.
The president's son-in-law, a key negotiator in the deal, zeroing in on governing Gaza.
The success or failure of this will be if Israel and this international mechanism is able to create a viable alternative. If they are successful, Hamas will fail and Gaza will not be a threat to Israel in the future.
As the region and the world hope peace will hold.
Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to lead a U.S. delegation to Israel this week. Sources said the trip comes as the Trump administration moves to implement Phase 2 of its ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. The truce that ended months of fighting is in its second week, but already tensions are bubbling up. Israel launched a wave of strikes on Gaza and blamed Hamas of violating the ceasefire after 2 Israeli soldiers were killed Sunday.
One federal agency responsible for overseeing the U.S. nuclear stockpile will furlough most of its staff on Monday. It's due to the government shutdown. A spokesperson for the Department of Energy says about 1,400 workers at the National Nuclear Security Administration will receive furlough notices. Fewer than 400 workers will remain on the job to safeguard the stockpile. Despite the disruption in operations, the nuclear stockpile is reliable and there is no national security threat.
Thieves stole priceless jewels from the world-famous Louvre in Paris in a daring heist early Sunday that forced the museum to close for the day. France's culture minister saying that the robbery happened as the museum opened. At least 3 masked men used a ladder mounted on the back of a truck to break in through a window, then reportedly used a staff elevator to get into the Apollo Gallery, where France's crown jewels are kept. The thieves made off with 8 items of jewelry and escaped on a moped.
Hundreds in Gainesville joined the second No Kings protest on Saturday, one of the largest single-day protests in U.S. history. Protesters assembled across the nation in opposition to President Donald Trump and his administration. The first No King protest was held on June 14th this summer. The second rally in Gainesville drew nearly twice as many participants as the crowd filled the park and lined up on 6th Street. People of all ages wore costumes and waved handmade signs, turning the protest a peaceful community event. One protester explains what it felt like to be part of the crowd.
It feels hopeful that the current moment, through its bleakness, will not last, and that together Americans will once again reassert the values that our nation holds dear.
Feature multiple speakers and bands advocating against issues such as ICE and National Guard deployments in American cities, federal pay cuts, and U.S. trade tariffs. Various tables were also set up where participants could learn more about specific issues and opportunities to contribute. While no more protests are currently scheduled, many demonstrators assure they will continue fighting until the president is out of office. Large crowds rallied at the Florida Capitol this past Saturday for the No Kings protest, as thousands of demonstrations were held nationwide. Tallahassee's protest was one of 2,100 protests across the U.S. There have been past protests that have drawn thousands to the historic Capitol since January.
A major road in West Palm Beach closed over the weekend after police found a hunting stand within sight of the Air Force One landing zone. FBI Director Kash Patel says the Southern Boulevard between Congress Avenue and Military Trail shut down for over 24 hours Saturday. Law enforcement says the stand appears to have been set up months ago. Agents came across the stand while conducting advanced security preparations ahead of Trump's arrival at Palm Beach International Airport. The roads reopened at 5 p.m. on Sunday, just before President Trump's return to the White House.
Research reveals disposable vapes are often thrown out casually, while people remain unaware of the hidden danger that could lie in their trash can. WFT's Eva Garcia spoke to local leaders about the dangers and how users can get rid of them properly.
Disposable vapes are common and can be one of the hardest items to get rid of safely. Alachua County Solid Waste and Recycling Hazardous Waste Coordinator Joshua Prouty says the batteries in your trash can equal a recipe for disaster.
The biggest problem with throwing them in the regular garbage can is your regular garbage trucks have compactors. And whenever you compact a battery, that creates a potential to destroy this battery and make it so it can go up in flames.
Experts say nicotine alone is considered a hazardous chemical. At this facility, vapes are set regular trash and considered hazardous waste.
Lithium will react with water and instantly catch on fire. And since these are so small and it's inside such a large truck, it's more of like a delayed burn. They may not even know they're on fire until they come here to the transfer station and empty the trash.
Reports show Americans dispose of more than 5 million vapes every week, most going to landfills that can't even handle these materials. Many users do not recognize the danger. Vape shop owner Dan Tong says figuring out what to do with used devices can get blurry.
The issue the rest of us have with that mentality is it just ends up wrecking the industry for the rest of us. You know, if the level of waste we're producing continues at this rate, something's going to have to be done.
Local officials hope vape users practice proper disposal in order to prevent fires.
GPD is asking for help locating 60-year-old Sean Way. He disappeared after being discharged from UF Health Hospital. Way was last seen on Southwest 16th Avenue at about 2 p.m. on October 4th. He is described as 6'1" and 150 pounds, wearing loafer shoes, dark shorts, and a white t-shirt. If you have any information about his whereabouts, please call the Gainesville Police Department.
Marion County has received more funding for 2 projects to stop opioid addiction. The Marion County Commission approved funding to coordinate opioid recovery network with $20 million over 18 years. It offers treatment to anyone suffering from addiction. The commission also approved a $750,000 fund for CORE. Part of that goes toward the Wear Gloves Dignity House, which offers housing for men who are recovering from opioid addiction.
Ocala women are getting more access to a precautionary measure against breast cancer. Starting at 9 a.m. on November 5th, free mammograms will be offered for women ages 40 to 64. The event is taking place at the Mary Sue Rich Community Center and does not require a prescription. Each appointment is only 10 minutes long, and all insurance plans are accepted.
Marion County parents, there is a new initiative to get the kids away from their screens. The Marion County Children's Alliance is running a Put Down the Phone Day campaign on November 15. People will have to be off their phones for a few hours if they participate. The goal is to raise awareness about the effects of increased screen time on mental health and relationships. The organization wants people to use their devices in moderation.
If you're out in the early morning hours later this week, it might be time to get the fall wardrobe ready. I'll let you know just how cool it could get for all of us coming up next.
Watching WUFT-TV News.
No traffic. UF forecaster Aiden Wacksman is live in the weather studio. Aiden, some of us are heading to work early in the morning and we might need some extra layers.
That's exactly right. Extra layers, definitely something I'd recommend if you're headed to work in the early morning hours later this week. Right now, though, no extra layers needed at the moment. Still staying in those mid-70s out there, 74 in Gainesville, 68 in Lake City, so a little bit cooler for those of us to the north of Alachua County. but it's still warm enough as to where we don't need the extra layers during the daytime yet. Our high temperatures today staying in those low 80s, just not really getting too much warmer out there. Some great fall weather, and as you saw on the traffic cam, some mostly clear skies out there too. We've got a couple of factors helping to make for some wonderful conditions out there. First is this cold front that passed through earlier this morning. We saw some cloud cover this morning. We actually saw some fog this morning as well, but with that having passed to the south of us, we're getting the nicer end of that cold front because we tend to get all the drier weather and cooler weather behind the cold front. We got a high pressure to our north as well, helping to make conditions nice out there, causing sinking air, and a big reason for those skies being clear as well. You can see the boundary here between where that cold front is and where it needs to get to, where we can see some lower dew points down there. 66 in Ocala, so still a bit more humid there, as to where behind the cold front in parts of Suwannee County, Columbia County, we're talking in the high 40s, low 50s for dew points. So that's some fantastic conditions and some nice dry weather. Tomorrow morning, low temperatures, we're getting cooler. We're not getting near that low 50-degree mark that we could be seeing in parts of those northern counties, but still pretty nice out there, low 60s, and then around the mid-50s for those of us to the north of Alachua County. This is exactly how cool it could get for those of us in Lake City. We're talking low 50s. This is where you'll need the layers right here. Wednesday and Thursday, those are the really cool temperatures. Low 50s, especially if you're from Florida, low 50s is legitimately cooler weather. Let's track the tropics really quickly. We got this cluster of thunderstorms in the Caribbean, an 80% chance of development in the next week. This will continue to move to the west. There's a lot of uncertainty around this right now because we do believe that it's going to turn north at some point, but when that'll happen, that's when we don't really know too much yet. We'll keep our eye on it for you, but nothing to worry about yet. That's what matters. The next storm name would be Melissa. Down here, that'd be our 13th named storm this season, so a little bit above average if that storm does end up being named for our hurricane season. On average, we get about 12 storms a year. That's considered the average number. It's looking pretty nice out there throughout the rest of the day. High temperatures not getting too hot out there. Maybe a little bit of cloud cover this evening and into tonight. Could definitely see some more cloud cover. But as we get into tomorrow and the rest of the week, we really are lowering in terms of how much of those clouds we're seeing. This cool air and dry air setup continues because we have another cold front on the way. That's what's going to bring that cooler air on Tuesday and Wednesday. As that continues to push to the west, we should see maybe a stray shower along this cold front, but nothing really in terms of those widespread showers that we may see. Nice temperatures out there. I'll have one final look at the weather coming up in about 10 minutes.
As artificial intelligence continues to grow, so do concerns around safety, particularly for minors. This week, California passed a first-of-its-kind legislation in the nation to regulate AI services called chatbots. Maribel Gonzalez shares testimony from one mother who says safeguards could have helped prevent the death of her son.
Megan Garcia says her 14-year-old son, Sewell Setzer III, loved to make people laugh.
He was handy with a quick joke, for sure.
But in 2023, she noticed a change.
He was more withdrawn, isolating himself in his bedroom, and he wasn't opening up. In February of 2024, he took his own life in our home.
The Florida mother believed an AI chatbot was to blame.
He had been engaging with an AI chatbot over numerous months, and those conversations were both romantic and sexual. He was in a situation where a chatbot was manipulating him.
Garcia is suing the company behind Character AI, alleging the company did not do enough to prevent Setzer from developing a relationship with a chatbot and did not adequately respond when Setzer began expressing thoughts of self-harm, according to the lawsuit. Character AI will not comment on the pending litigation, but say they have introduced new features, including self-harm resources and features focused on the safety of minor users.
We need to protect our kids and our teens and our families from the excesses of this new technology.
California Governor Gavin Newsom signed SB 243. Led by State Senator Steve Padilla, this legislation will require chatbot operators to implement safeguards around interactions with AI.
We have to rapidly rise to meet the challenge to not miss a window to provide reasonable safeguards.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
Character AI says they will work with lawmakers as they develop legislation for this emerging space and will comply with laws, including SB 24, adding that they will work with external experts focused on teenage online safety.
After a widespread outage, hundreds of online services and platforms are getting back up and running. According to downdector.com, services that were affected included Venmo, Snapchat, Facebook, Prime Video, and Amazon's cloud computing. Amazon Web Services said Monday there were issues with its cloud service operations. The outage lasted 3 hours, and entertainment and some of the apps are getting back up and running. Your next trip to a gas station could be your cheapest in 4 years. AAA say the current national average price for a gallon of regular gasoline could reach the $3 mark for the first time since 2021. In the past week, the average has dropped to $3.05 from $3.55. AAA reports lower demand, falling crude oil prices, and cheaper winter blend gas at the pump are some factors behind the drop. But hurricane season has not impacted oil refineries or drilling along the Gulf. Coming up next in sports, continued coverage of the firing of Billy Napier.
The kinds of words pouring in from players on the current roster and former Gator greats. We'll have the breakdown after the break. Welcome to your Midday Sports. I'm Abigale Dressback. Despite the Gators' 20, Florida head coach Billy Napier was fired on Sunday. Wide receiver coach Billy Gonzalez was named as the interim head coach. At the Swamp on Saturday, emotions were high as the firing rumors circulated. Once again, running back Aiden put up big numbers with a career high, running for 150 yards, including a touchdown. With 20 seconds left in the game, sophomore defensive tackle Mekhi Burrow came up with a crucial interception to seal the Gator win. After the game, Napier didn't touch on his future with Florida. Instead, he praised his players for stepping up.
You know, from a work ethic, commitment, the depth was challenged. The entire process was challenged. You had a lot of players play some of their best football of their careers, and then you had some unknowns just step up out of nowhere and make incredible plays.
One of their SEC rivals, the Georgia Bulldogs, who are ranked 5th at the moment. Then they'll travel to Kentucky on November 8th and face the Wildcats. The week after that, they will match up with number 8 Ole Miss to face Lane Kiffin. The Gators are finally back home when they take on the number 17 Volunteers on November 2nd. Their final game will be in the Swamp on November 29th against their longtime rival, the Florida State Seminoles. Catch First at 5 back here to get more details on both of the Billies, as we have some of our team at the Florida football press conference right now. I'm Abigale Dressback, and that's your Midday Sports.
Plenty of cool weather to look forward to.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back here tomorrow for another edition.